Do you want to talk about documentation a bit today?
Sure. Really, somebody else might want to take the horns on this because I've not been doing a very good job of it.
Well, you've been busy doing something else, we assume. So.
Yes.
That's fine. So we need a new owner, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I'd be glad to sit Copilot on it, but there's one pull request right now that's kind of a duplicate of a page that we already have.
The one about Azure?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really use Azure, so it might be. I was going to hit on somebody else to look at it to see which one's better, or if they should just be merged into one document.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. All those things take time. Okay, so we'll make a call for a new owner for documentation then. But of course, your contributions are always welcome. And thanks for handling it for a few months.
Yep.
All right. Sebastian, what do you want to talk about today?
Everything.
Are you still sick?
I was yesterday, crazy.
Yeah.
I stood up from bed and go back.
Yeah.
I felt dizzy and everything.
I hope you feel better.
It's better, yeah.
Okay.
And so status on last week's work, new websites. I found some new ones, but I didn't note them. New websites. What else? I did some triaging, so we'll talk about triage. There was a nice discussion about Git too. Lots of. I should take notes, but I don't have a pen. So status on last week's work. It was the first week with Git. There have been a few pull requests on Git. The first one was from Sipke, which was one which he had opened on Mercurial and opened back on Git. It was about we talked about it last week, so I just pulled it. But it was interesting because he made a public branch. Did he make it? Yes, he made a public branch on the main repository based on OneNotex, as I had suggested. The issue is that because I wanted everything to be rebased on OneNotex, it was kind of hard to make it, to rebase a public branch, because it means I delete the public branch after I rebase it, but multiple other users might already have it, and you can't delete a branch that they have locally on their machine.
Oh.
So I'm balanced right now between do we do merge branching or rebase branching on OneNotex? I have to talk with the SignalR team because they use rebase branching. The NuGet team is using merge branching. I'd rather have.
Are they getting a lot of contributions?
It's not how they work. There are almost 7 or 8 different contributors internally in Microsoft to the code base, and they manage to work like that. We don't have 8 contributors on the public repository, so this should be simpler. Actually, there might be no issues because I'm worried about people having branches that they should not have, and then they push it with a force push, like they push a branch that doesn't exist anymore, and it will recreate it. And I'm afraid of that. But maybe I should not be afraid of that. It won't happen because I hope no one will do a force push, Bertrand, on the public repository. Meaning, if it tells you, hey, the branch doesn't exist anymore, you should not do it, then you should not force push it. if it tells you don't do it.
Yeah, I explained you what happened that time.
Yep.
It was clearly a mistake on my part, but not that mistake.
But no, this is different because the 1.x branch is legitimate. So what I mean is that if there is a branch named feature foo and it doesn't exist online and you didn't create it on purpose, then don't push it.
Yes.
Because,
that's not what happened. I have a second piece of advice that actually corresponds to the real situation then. So what happens is that I have my own fork, right, on a private repository, and I'm pulling from Codeplex and pushing to my private repo. Okay. And I was actually creating a new branch on my private repository, which is why the force was actually legitimate. Mm-hmm. But where I screwed up is that I pushed the Codeplex repository was marked as default, and I pushed from the command line, and I didn't explicitly say what remote I wanted to push to, and that's why I had the force on, which was right, but I had the wrong repository.
Okay.
So if you have your own private repository, don't make Codeplex the default. Make sure that your private is the default.
So, for instance, Piotr asked me if he had to create branches for his features, and for the moment, I'm just pushing back for it. So, if you want to create features, do a fork, then create feature branches based on 1.x, as many as we want, and then make a pull request for this feature branch, so we can discuss it and maybe integrate it. It's easier for me to rebase an external branch than a local one. Well, I made it. We made it with Sipke. You didn't see any feature branch, but there was one. It was rebased. It worked well. So maybe there won't be an issue. It's just like it took me 8 different Git commands to make it. It's not that it is hard. That right now it's risky. So I will see how people behave. We'll see. I will also talk with the Singular team how to see how they handle it. So some items were pushed. Let me see. I will close this one. I will share my screen.
Have you done my uncommitted submissions? No, you haven't done it, have you?
So many things.
If people say, Nick, why didn't you push your forum module? I'll say, well, Sebastian didn't want me to.
I have to check the database directly. That's odd. Okay, so I'm sharing.
Please do it for me, dude.
Yeah.
I would really love to release that module after 2 years.
Can you see my screen?
Still loading for me.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it, thanks.
There it is.
So this one, I think you all saw it. It was the. So now there is a. Oh no, maybe it's new. So Richard Garside implemented the check all checkbox on all the admin screens. Kind of what Bertrand did with his keyboard shortcuts, but now there is a checkbox. When you click on it, it will check everything on the page for bulk actions. Then he made another pull request. What it's actually a fix. This one is the one from Sipke, which was hard to integrate. Then I made the Windows Azure Blob Storage provider module. Might want to talk about this one. So I had talked about it. The idea is that when you deploy on Azure websites, you might not want to use the file system for the storage provider, but maybe you want to also use the blob storage. And so what I did is just a port of the code we had on the Azure solution to a module, so that if you enable this one, the storage provider will be the Azure Blob Storage. And you can either define the configuration in the web config or in the Azure portal. It's using the SDK 2.0 and nothing special. I just had to upgrade the code to the new SDK because it changed a lot, but it works. The discussion we might have might be about, do we want this module inside the main solution? There is no conflict. It might be interesting because we target primary Azure as a hoster. Well, I mean, it works fine there, and it's also in the gallery. And it's just about enabling this one to have the blob storage working.
I don't think it should be.
Pros and cons, and then vote, maybe?
So the reason why I say I don't think it should be is that if you rolled out to another provider, you've bundled the Azure stuff with it to, I don't know, let's say AWS. If you rolled out to AWS and you bundle the AzureBlobStorage module as a core module in there, and someone goes and enables it, it won't work. All the modules at the moment work when you roll out to any provider.
Well, no, it's wrong. It will work.
It will work on AWS?
Yes, because it will just use the AzureBlobStorage.
You can configure the storage to be an external provider.
Why would not you? It's a service. AzureBlobStorage is a blob service.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't know that. So, all right,
and true on the opposite, you could have an Azure website using S3 storage.
Okay, then I'm for it.
So
changed my mind.
the con I see is that it's it's a decision to say, hey, it's Azure, and we don't have the other providers. But on the other side, Orchard is principally done by someone working on the Azure group. My boss's boss is the Azure group boss, so I'm in the Azure group. So we won't do a default provider for Amazon, for instance.
And it's not on by default. You still need to enable it. So a con is that it's an additional module that sits there, gets compiled if you're doing dynamic compilation, but that isn't such a big problem anymore now that we have that we can disable dynamic compilation. And yeah, there are some advantages in being nice to Azure. I would leave it.
Okay.
We can vote.
We can remove it by later or so if we want. If we don't want it. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of people asking for that in the recent time, which I found weird at first. But even for performance reasons, it might make sense because the files are served on a different domain, and then
it's a form of distributed network delivery. So.
Okay, so I leave it for the moment. So this, then what? What is this? Fixing cache duration, configuration support. There was a bug about cache duration which was not taken into account when you would configure the cache for a specific route on the admin for the cache module. Cache module was pretty broken in some scenarios, so it has been fixed. This also is a huge, is a small fix but huge implication. So the issue is that if you use the workflow module, so let me show you this awesome module. Control F5, start. Sign in. will take an example I'm working on right now. Let's say, where is workflow? Oop. This one. So this is a submission of a contact form. Okay. So this one is not so simple, but let's just imagine this is a content created event, and then I just want to send an email. Technically, the issue with the content created event is that it's really the content created event in Orchard, which is just about when the first record is instantiated, okay? Or the first content item is instantiated, like the content item version and the content item. And at this time, there's absolutely no content at all. So let's say I go to new page and I hit save. There are 2 steps, or like 10 steps, but the 2 main ones are content created, so it's creating the content item. Then it will call all the drivers to update the value, and the updating and updated method will be called, which means when content created is triggered, there is no data at all in the content item. And the issue is that when we are in the workflow, we just expect that when the content is created, it's created and I can use it. It's the first time it's created. It's not like a new publication or a versioning. It's the first time it's created and it's kind of saved and available. Actually, the data is available. But it's not the case. It was not the case before the commit I did. So which means that if you did an event on content created, and if you are using tokens about data, they will just be empty. Okay. And people were saying, hey, this token doesn't work in the workflow module, or tokens that don't work, whatever. No, it's just that the content created is really what it says. It's just the content is created, it's not updated. Which led me to create a new event named content updated. So now you could say, I have content created, and right after, I'm waiting for the content to be updated. And when it's only updated, I can use the tokens. But this is not really what you would expect, and nobody would discover this. It's not really discoverable. So I changed the content created event in the workflow to be triggered only when created and updated have been set. Which means now when you use created, it's as you would expect, not in terms of Orchard content created, but the content has been created, you can use it. Okay. And it's just changing the behavior in the workflow. There is still this updated if you want to trigger whenever the content has been changed, maybe not submitted, but just changed. Okay, someone changed the content, it's not published or whatever, or the user task hasn't been triggered, but the content has changed to something. But now the content created is behaving as a user might expect. And then the tokens are available. So this I did here. In the rules module, there was not this issue because there was a specific action called form submitted. Because actually the content created is usually used for form submission, and there was a form submitted. And the form submitted trigger event was triggered when only the content was created and updated. So it was like, okay, form submitted means the form is available. And I didn't want to create a specific one because we have content created, which is generic and can work for anything which is even not a form. So this is an important change. Quite simple to do, but important. Then this is a JavaScript, this is a submission from David Cornish, which is nice in Git because you can see in the history that I was the committer, but the author is David Cornish. I don't think we could see it with Mercurial. When I had to commit something, I had to change my name to this name and then revert to my own name. Here we can see who made the commitment and who wrote the change set. This is fixing a bug in the cache module. You can't rewrite an e tag, it's throwing an exception, so now I'm checking if there is already an e tag before writing it. Fixing the taxonomy fields. Just want to see the diff. Oh yeah, so the taxonomy field will not work during the created event, or just after, right after, because yeah, the initialization of the loaders was called only when the content item was loaded from database and not when the content item was just created. So if you will create a content item in a form and trying to get the token from it when the form is submitted, the values would have been empty. And this is exactly the example I have here. If you use a form with some taxonomy inside, now it's working. You can use it in the tokens. And related to that, so I also made a content body token because it was easy to do, and that's when we didn't have that. So now you can get the body of something, of some content item as a token. And the change I'm about to commit, which I just finished this morning, but took me like 2 days, and I'm not yet happy with the patch. So if someone can find a good solution, I will be happy to take it. It's an issue raised by Piedon. The issue is that if you have a background task and you try to use tokens inside a background task, tokens using the rendering URLs, it will fail because the tokens using URLs, for instance, the display URL or the absolute token, will try to load a URL helper to create a URL helper, but there is no running HTTP context, and the URL helper is looking for HTTP context, so it will fail and the token will be empty. And it's kind of sad because you might want to render URLs to specific content items or comments or disabling comments actions into your emails, for instance. So this is what this workflow is about. So this workflow is just waiting for a contact form to be created, like submitted, and then splits the workflow into 2 branches. One is right now is sending an email as soon as the content is created to say, hey, a form has been submitted. And another one is waiting on a timer to also send the same email. So 2 emails will be sent, one straight away and one after 1 minute. But this one will be sent in a background task because it's launched by it's waiting for a timer. So the test is about, okay, do I see the same values when I'm in the background task and when I'm in the front end? Because on the background task I don't have HTTP context and my email is using the terms field, okay, and using an absolute URL for the display URL of the content which was submitted, okay. So it was not working, and now it works. But so the solution is that actually there is something interesting that I changed to, which is in the content tokens. So in the content tokens where you could have the display URL, it was using the work context to create the URL helper. Okay, the work context was getting the HTTP request, the HTTP context, and was creating a URL helper dynamically. Now with the change, actually, I'm not sure anyone knows that, but you can inject a URL helper as a dependency, because this MVC module will register the request context, the URL helper, and the HTTP context for your dependencies. So you don't have to use work context when you want the current HTTP context or when you want a URL helper. And this is nicer because now we can define dynamically what is the rule. Actually seems to be broken when you have other types than blog post or something like that, I don't know. So it's a pretty big issue, and I think we could ship a 171 if people can use it. And so we'll do a RC and wait for people to say it's working, because there have been a bunch of bug fixes and improvements we can ship quickly and still work on the 17X, which will be 2 then. So if you see very important bugs that should be fixed ASAP, please mention them to me or increase their impact. Okay. Nobody disagrees. Nice faces. Cool. Have you upgraded to 1.7? Okay. What else? New websites. Let me load them. Websites. I have 3. There are more than that, but I will show only 3 this week. I'm closing it. This here. Website. This. Then I need to share. Share desktop. Car seller. And they don't sell Toyota. That's nice. This one is nice. About a city, I don't know where. What is it? Makati, somewhere. And this one, Denmark. There are a bunch of others, but well, I didn't write them down. Stats. WordPress is still owning everyone. We are still going up. It's a pretty nice spike here. And some websites here you can find. That's how I find them most of the time. You see, up you click. Guns. I think we have seen this one already.
The URLs in the chat window.
Okay. Those one worked and I give you this one. On the CMS to sell cars. Well, easy torture. Yes. Old version, because it's using Piot's menu module. Okay, what else? I don't see anyone wants to talk about something. Oh, Sipke, I had a chat with Sipke about his buckets module. You remember the module he showed us last week?
You mean Sipke? You said Piotr?
Sipke. I said Piotr?
Sipke? I heard Piotr.
Okay. Sipke, so we had a chat because what he showed was very interesting. And the conclusion of the chat is that he actually made the list module. Exactly the list module. So, and that's really true. He made everything which is in the list, and he said, well, we don't need actually the containable part. So I looked at the containable part, and oh, it has a weight, like we need to order things, and we said that it would be nice to order. Okay, so we still need the containable, so actually the list is good. And so now his new next goal, I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, is to update the list module with interesting things and to remove what was not interesting into the list module. For instance, how things were sorted. There won't be sorting into the. There will be
UI
ordering.
Was kind of crappy.
Also, yeah,
you have the admin menu entries.
So he will refresh the list module, and he will also. Who is the echo? I'm sure it's Travis. I'm muting you.
So that's right, but the thing is that the list features they are primarily implemented as part of Orchard.core in the containers module. There's just a single driver in the list module, and that includes the ordering by properties and stuff like that. That's also part of, and also the custom properties part. It's all part of the containers module in Orchard.core.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, should we remove it from that, or should we introduce, like something like a list part and a list item part, representing basically the containable and container part? I prefer the containable and container parts, but they're kind of polluted, if you will, with those old stuff that we don't need. But if we remove it, it would break other modules who rely on those features.
I see. So we don't want to break people in. Okay. So do we break or do we not break them?
Exactly.
If they use the list module.
Well, not the list module itself, or maybe.
But
primarily the container module.
Well, if there is a migration path, it's okay. For instance, if they were using you can't use directly those properties. They are handled by the drivers. So if we change the driver not to use them anymore because they're not there anymore, it will break. It will just not work. So then the migration path will be, hey, you want to order your list? Use a projection and project your list and order it by what you want. And that's what we said. So I think this is just what we can break, the ordering.
Okay. And what about custom properties? There's a custom properties part. Should we just?
They will just create fields and. I will handle personally the only guy on earth who is using the custom properties on the list module. I don't know what this is, but it will show up. And I will handle it personally. I will fill all the values in his database with his custom properties.
Can you also deal with the guy who had the idea?
Who is this? I'm not sure I was in the meeting.
I think his name begins with Bradley.
Okay. He's got a nice office.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
But I wasn't.
Or at least I blame him.
Yeah, I wasn't in this meeting because it was like a late last-minute meeting. So everyone who was not required on this discussion was not invited.
Yeah,
so Bradley was that was the time we will. Okay, so he was the owner of the feature. Okay.
I was in that meeting.
Okay. Yes, but no, we can remove it. I'm sure, and even more, people didn't understand what it was, so they were not using it.
Okay. Then
we just have a migration path, an update path. Okay, so an upgrade path. So it's documented if you are using the list module, and if you are using a specific sorting user protection. If you are using the custom properties, call me.
Okay, that sounds fair.
I think it's safe. And it's been also deprecated for a long time, since projection 1.3, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's about reviving list and also having this meta list something. So you can create types of list and then the blog post will be a type of list. Because there will be also RSS handling and things like that. So that would be nice. This is the idea. Yeah. Great.
So it's Nick. The guy you're looking for is Nick.
He's using that?
I love it. I love the properties. I can store stuff in there.
That's
arbitrary metadata, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, you can put some dates in there. It works great. Yeah. And then you try to sort on them, and it doesn't work for some reason.
By the way, this reminds me something I wrote in the media library. I'm not sure I've talked about this thing. You guys know how the fields are stored in a content item? Well, someone will say no. So the idea is that when a field is stored, let me show you. It is there. comments. Where is this? Where is the content item record table? Where is this? The content item record. It's framework or short framework, content item record. Show table data, and there is also the content version record actually. Okay. So you see this column data, this is a blob storage, and you see this is an XML document which contains the fields. There will be for each part, each
Sebastian,
field, the value stored.
You're not sharing screen,
Oh, sorry.
at least for me.
For anyone. Okay. Command line CMS. I have to talk about something else too. Tell me when you see it.
Okay, slowly. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the content item version table, and this is a data field. This is a blob containing an XML document, an info set. That's why you see the info set part. Info set part is a part which will be used for storage and save all the values into this column as an XML document, and that's how fields are saved. And we can use projections on fields just because there is another module which will project every field to a separate generic table for handling any data, and then we can query in SQL, but that's another matter. Just to mention that anyone can use this to save things, metadata or whatever. That's why I thought about that, because Nick mentioned metadata. And if you don't need to query, it's like a document model for a NoSQL DB. You see, just a big JSON document, you put things inside and you just project what you want to query on. And so how I use it in the media library is that for some parts, you can disagree with that. For instance, metadata we don't want to query on. For instance, the length of an audio file, okay? It's just some metadata. It's in the part, I'm not using a record. The length property here is just wrapping the info set part and say store into this value. So it's not using records. So for instance, you might want parts who don't create records and you spare a specific inner join or a specific query to get the value of the part. And this way, this value is already available when the object is loaded because the document has been loaded. So whenever you want to retrieve it, is just get the value from the info set part. And from a user's perspective or a developer's perspective, it's wrapped into this part and this property. And in the end, it will be saved into this blob XML document. So just to mention some development techniques if you want to save things, but you will never want to query on them, like denormalizing data or whatever. Okay. Yep. That's it. Just wanted to mention this technique. Might be useful for some developers. Any question? Command line CMS.
I wanted to talk briefly about the Git announcement and kind of do a postmortem on that. I wasn't really surprised by the fact that there was actually discussion about whether we should move to Git. So that was kind of pointless from my point of view, but I understand that the announcement is what was probably a little badly handled, I would say. So when next time we do something that is that impacting for people, we shouldn't assume that everybody is watching the meetings and reading the meeting notes. We really need to advertise it in advance in enough channels. So that means, yes, the meetings, the meeting notes, but also announcements on the forums and the mailing list. And It doesn't mean that we are going to change the decisions that we made, because I mean we are making the decisions until proven otherwise. People can always fork if they don't like it. But we do need to give people enough time to prepare for something like that. So I think that was a fair point and something to think about next time we do something like this. That's it. What I had to say.
Okay. Okay. What about harvest videos? I think this is Ilan is there, but I think there is some progress.
Yeah, the editor is back from vacation and he's finishing up those that he has not yet completed. So that should be wrapped up shortly.
With high definition this time.
So, what's the estimated date for most of the videos? Do we have something like that, or is it just when it's going to be ready?
I'll have a better estimate by next week, but I would think the majority of them will be done by next week.
Okay.
So, Sebastian, to reflect on the chat, so the list can hold content items from different types. Is that correct?
Yes. You will select which types you want, or if any type you want. And then when you open the content picker, you will see just those types, what the content picker can handle right now, and that's okay. And in theory, you will be able to create hierarchies, because you can say a list contains some content type, which itself can contain other things. And the idea was about, when we talked with Sipke, was about to have some pop-ups when you select the type, so it will be stacking pop-ups. So you could create the item. You could create the hierarchy, the graph, without having to create all the items first and then create the links between them. You see, you will be able to create dynamically from the leaves of the graph up to the container without, in a one, not transaction, but in one UI transaction, I would say. Okay, so.
I see. Okay, thank you.
I think an explicit goal for this feature should be that we should be able to replace blogs with it, or at least to reproduce what blogs are doing exactly, without any difference or weird things. You know, it should feel you should be able to build something that feels exactly like the blog module.
Agree. Sipke, go.
I'm making notes, and I agree. That was my initial intent as well.
We fire you if you can't achieve this goal.
Awesome. I'm not even. I don't even have a job.
I don't care. So. Fire you.
So what would happen to the blog module?
That's an open question.
I think we'll keep it.
It would be great if we could replace it, but we'll probably keep it because it just works and it's easier this way. I don't know.
Maybe
it's kind of old, but
deprecate it and migrate it.
If the migration is simple enough, why not?
That's hard.
It should be.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work just for political reasons.
It's a lot of work for something that already works.
Yeah.
You know.
So the goal is interesting because you can repro the behavior of the blog for anything else, like hotel rooms or news category news, whatever. But replacing it, if it works, why?
That's what I'm trying to understand.
You don't want it. And all the issues we will have with the migration and everything, and no, I don't want to handle that. For what? For no reason.
Yeah. Okay.
In a 2.0 if you want, okay, let's remove the bugs in 2.0 because we break everything, but
Yeah, good point.
And if we did it before, it was a bad decision. Okay. Just to prevent some. Hey, we can remove logs. We did it for this thing. Okay, that's it. On time.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Nice. 1 hour exactly.
Okay, see you guys.
See you.
Thanks.
Talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.